You're tuned in to today's Live at 5. Before we jump into today's episode, I just want to remind you that this show is only possible because of the continued support of amazing people like you. You can continue to support us by subscribing to this YouTube channel, sharing an episode with a friend, or signing up to our Patreon page via the link in the description below. From there, you'll be able to access some exclusive bonus content and dive deeper into the world of Live at 5. Now, without any further ado, let's get right into today's show. We hope you enjoy. Hey there, and welcome to Live at 5. It's Thursday, May 14th, and another beautiful lockdown day in London. We've never seen so many beautiful days ever in this city, so at least that's keeping us positive. And we're, of course, joined by our steadfast, trusty producer, Darcy O'Connor. Darcy, how are you, Darcy?
Hello, Giacomo. How are you?
I'm losing it. No, not really.
A little. I think you just need to lay off the double espressos at 4 p.m. That's just
honestly, they just keep me going. I've just been I spent even more of the morning checking out Coleman Hawkins' back catalog stuff, like 1922.
Wow. And
he was a force of nature because, when we had it's so great getting musical inspiration from the people that come on this show. I mean, that's why in big part why we do it, just to kind of keep everybody connected and going. And Steve Abbott, of course, said, I hated jazz. I grew up listening to all kinds of music and I hated jazz. And I thought, well, I hate jazz too. We can all hate jazz a little bit. But he said, when I heard Coleman Hawkins, something really spoke to me. So I can remember, because obviously Coleman Hawkins is one of those central figures in jazz that you have to say that you like, you have to say that you like these people, but actually you might not know any of their records,
Sure.
It's like you actually have to go back and check out the stuff, especially somebody who is recording for over 30 or 40 years. And it's just amazing to check out that progression and the kind of the thing that Steve said about how Coleman Hawkins spoke to him made me think, wow, actually he has this really vocal style. So it wasn't a figurative thing. It was quite literal. It was like this kind of speaking saxophone.
Was there anyone that reached out to you like that in your early sort of musical career?
Yeah, Joshua Redman was definitely one for me, and Mike Brecker in terms of saxophone players. But I think it's the players with Louis Armstrong is a great example, but the players that have that vocal style, then you might even think they're talking just to you, but if you've had a couple of double espressos, that makes it all better. Anyway, we're here today. I love our guests today because I love the kind of productive nature of creative partnerships, and I think partnerships are so vital to kind of a creative project because they give you a built-in editor. As soon as you have an idea, you have somebody that you trust who you can bounce it off of. So our guests today are Nina Fine and Louise Paley from the Women in Jazz organization that's proudly based in London, and they do all kinds of cool things that they're going to tell us about. They're involved in education. They run a radio show on Soho Radio, and they have a whole host of other activities that they'll no doubt tell us about. But before we meet them, we're going to jump into some music. And this is from a good friend of Smitty's and Live at 5, who's also involved with Women in Jazz. And her name is also Jazz. This is some music from Jazz Kaiser. You're listening to Live at 5. Hey there, we're back live at 5, and Nina and Lou, you're live at 5 too now. How are you?
We couldn't
good.
be more. We couldn't be more live and alive.
Yeah.
I'm so glad that you're alive at 5. And so tell us about that little video, and tell us. You said Jazz has some new music coming out as well.
Yeah, so that was sadly, but well, it's kind of bittersweet. It was our last event before COVID kicked off, and it was at H Club. It was Jazz and her trio, and probably one of the best events we've ever done. It was amazing. I mean, she's probably one of the most exciting young talents in the UK at the moment.
Yeah.
And it's yeah, as I said, it's a little bit bittersweet because, you know, kind of ended it on a high, but we're like, oh, we want more, and now we can't do more. But so
I mean, you know, I think what you both are doing is incredible. So, but I want to kind of zero in on what it is that the organization, you know, does, and what you kind of, you know, what your mission statements kind of are, whatever. But, you know, do you break artists' material? Do you promote artists? Or, because I know you put on concerts, and I know you have the Soho radio show and the kind of educational elements. Is that kind of the 3 main pillars of Women in Jazz?
Yeah, so one of our grounding missions is to solve the underrepresentation of women in jazz. And a huge point of that is increasing visibility. So I suppose you could say our impetus or our nucleus was starting off at Soho Radio, and that's our monthly radio show. But yes, our main strands are broadcast and live events. So across International's Women's Day, we did 3 different events: Ronnie Scott, H Club, Albright Club. And we think by increasing visibility on that live stage space, and we're now starting to look at the digital opportunities, like many people in the live sector, that's where the increase of visibility can really start happening. So the education, we've done workshops before, and we've also done some masterclasses with Guildhall and some future partners, but our main strands are the broadcast, live events, and soon to be digital iteration of what we do.
That's so cool. That makes a lot of sense. So moving forward, you know, looking at kind of, you're going to be looking at ways to get, are you going to have a roster of artists, or is it going to be kind of, you know, just like the radio show that you already have, but kind of amplified, where people send you stuff and you say, we found this, we want to advocate for this person? Or how does that work?
Yeah, so obviously we can't do live, so we're trying to develop a digital strand that can reach as many people as possible, while still being aligned with what we're trying to do, which is essentially champion and nurture female artists. And when we say artists, we don't just mean musicians, we mean DJs. We want to promote managers, industry professionals, as well, so that artists can have, not just a platform for them to, perform music, but to have commercial tools to really navigate the industry and to understand and demand their value. So we're currently developing a product which we hope will serve the UK women in the UK jazz scene. Right.
Well, cool. So in terms of the genesis of the idea, I mean, I know that, Nina, I know that you're, from a musical background, and Lou, I don't know so much your musical roots. You play as well?
I used to play. I studied music at uni. I did a BA in composition.
Oh, right.
And then
wow,
I actually went on to join the YMM Young Music Makers Big Band with some of my inspirations today, like Mark Kavuma and
wow, right. What do you play?
Keys.
Sweet.
And Reuben Fox, and that's how I kind of got into jazz, I guess. And then after uni, I went straight into music PR, actually, in production, working on programming. I worked at the Roundhouse, helping to produce different festivals there, and worked with the National Youth Jazz Collective specifically on programming, and working a lot with emerging musicians, specifically with women as well.
Well, that was going to be my next question, but I didn't realize that you had such firm roots in the jazz camp, because I was just wondering, why didn't you want to call it women in music, or what was it about the jazz community that drew you both in so much?
I think it's a good question. I think as simple as, well, we both have a huge passion for the genre. But then also I think, you know, going back to the kind of light bulb moment when we decided to give the project a name, like, you know, I was working specifically, as I said, with young people and young women. And what I noticed was that some of these artists who had, you know, already got places at like prestigious jazz colleges across the world, had, some of them, not all, but had little or no confidence in things like jazz jams and like really getting up there and like being, you know, kind of expressive in what they're doing and staying true to themselves. So I thought, you know, I want to do something about this. I want to explore the reasons why this is happening. And then I gave Nina a call and we started brainstorming some ideas.
Yeah, I love the connection between you two, because you're actually family, right?
Yeah, we're second cousins. Lou's mum and my dad are first cousins, crazily.
But you hadn't, you know, there were no like big fine Paley family reunions. It was really the music that brought you together, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It was very spontaneous and beautiful. I just had this message pop up from Lou, and we just met for coffee at Premises Studios in Hackney. And there is that kind of spark that happens when you realize you share a belief with someone. And I think that just, you know, Lou and I hadn't necessarily grown up together, but we'd had our own journeys. And there was this amazing synergy that as Lou started talking about her experiences and what she'd noticed happening, or just as experiences for girls and women in jazz, I was noticing similarities, but in very different settings. And yeah, I do think that, I think if I think about our community as well, no matter what gender you are, no matter what stage of career you are, no matter how you engage with the music, there's a shared belief, and there's something incredibly powerful and exciting about that. So when we talk about women in jazz, we often say we come from a place of joy and celebration. And that's what it's about. We love these talented people, and we want to ensure that our platforms are amplifying those voices and celebrating with people about it.
But Giacomo, it's interesting that you asked, you know, why not women in music? And actually at the beginning, we were actually told by a few people that, you know, to change the name at the beginning. But actually, we thought no, we're going to stick to this because we do what we say on the tin, and it's obvious, and we're gonna stick by it. So yeah, it's people have different views and opinions about it, but here we are today.
I'm so glad you stuck to your guns, because we're certainly glad in the jazz world to have you as kind of community members. It's a positive energy that you make, for sure. So in terms of you know, plans for, you know, the future and things that, you know, projects coming up, I know that things are going on now that we can't do anything about, but you know, what are you hoping to progress in the next phase of, because it's a fairly young organization, isn't it? You've been doing it for what, 3 years now?
Yeah,
no, less than near 2, yeah.
Right. So, you know, where are we, what exciting things can we expect?
So that's a great question. I mean, as you say, it's a bit of an up and down time. So one of the developments was that we were going to have a show on British Airways, and that was quite an international reaching. Yeah.
Cool. That's cool.
You could hear the simultaneous oh and oh.
Well,
but
they'll come back. It's a good thing you didn't pick Virgin.
And so but what that really shows is the directions that we're wanting to move in are that while we're London based, we want to be reaching the UK and beyond that. So in terms of broadcast, we're definitely looking to develop those side of things, and as Lou said, in terms of the digital platform, it's really seeing how we can best nurture artists in where they're at in their careers and help them develop to stages that they can be reaching their highest potential. That's what we're excited to do.
Yeah, that's awesome. So how do you, I mean, Lou, what you said before about, you know, working with young artists and realizing that a lot of the young women artists, or, you know, players that maybe will become, you know, artists or whatever, that they didn't have the confidence that they needed to kind of get to that stage where they're finding their own voice and everything like that. How do you scout talent like that? Are you kind of in, are you getting, I know that you're working with Abram Wilson Foundation now, we can talk about that later, but I'm really interested in how you find people to work with.
I mean, loads of different ways. I mean, we've built quite strong relationships with our partners. So like, Ronnie Scott's, they do so much work for young people, and we're constantly keeping updated with that. Abram Wilson Foundation, obviously we know about that, what they do. The Roundhouse, like there's so many of our partners are doing really exciting things with young artists, and so that's one of the ways that we connect with musicians, is through partnership work, and it's so important to everything that we do. Partnership.
Yeah.
And then the second way is it's jazz is not, it's not a big scene. It's not, everyone knows people, and lots of it is word of mouth. I mean, like with jazz, for example, Jazz Kaiser, I mean, we've been working with Amy Pierce for the last year, who used to work for Sirius and does some jazz consultancy, etc. And she put to Terry Harrington. Terry pointed us to jazz. Like, it's a very small world, and people connect you and you find out, and that's to me sometimes the most exciting ways of finding out about musicians.
Yeah. It's funny how it's so old school, isn't it? In a way, it's the music industry is still, it's still like, even if it's somebody's Instagram, that it's a little like 10-second clip, it's somebody sending it to you, it's that kind of picking up the phone and saying, oh my God, have you heard so-and-so? They're really going to be doing some amazing stuff. So I think the cool thing is now, and what you were saying, is the cool thing is that you can reach outside of London, without having to necessarily leave, and kind of use your network to kind of bring those people into what you're doing. Yeah. Is that accurate?
I think so. And actually, within our first year of starting, we actually went to some cities like Bristol, Birmingham, Brighton, because it was important for us that while we're a London-based organisation, we really want to tap into what the different jazz scenes or groups in other cities are saying. Because, for example, I studied at Leeds University, and that was such a different, amazing soul and jazz and actually like more Cuban music vibe. So for us, it's that was physically going to those places, and also getting to know the collectives that are currently nurturing that scene too. So like Shakayla Marrig, she's in Birmingham, she's got Cube, and that's building those partnerships that can then also funnel the talent to us, and vice versa, to nurture as best as we can the talent that's coming up, so that, for example, those young musicians feel they can achieve those other places. In a way that maybe some of the young people Lou and I previously worked with didn't feel.
Right. Okay. Cool. Well, let's jump into some more music. And this is a clip of some very well-established musicians on the London scene. Do either one of you want to tell us about this video and how it came to be? This is the one with Shirley and Co.
Yes. So I think this video was from a sound check with Shirley and Co, and this was a video taken just before our first event, which was our launch at Ronnie Scott's upstairs, and it was such an electric night. The lineup was Shirley, Jessica Lorenfort and Zakia, and to have such a vibrant lineup and all artists that we massively appreciate and adore was just like electric. We had the best night. So hopefully anyone watching feels that vibe too.
Sweet, let's hear it. Hey there, we're back live at 5 with Louise Paley and Nina Fine. So so for both of you, and I know this from working with Jack for years, I really enjoy, the kind of having a creative partner in Kansas Smitty's. How have you enjoyed working together in this common goal? Or did you always know when you were, kind of trying to start out that you would need somebody else to kind of partner with? Is it, I don't know. How have you found it? Is it inspiring to be with one another?
Speaking for myself, I find it a total blessing. I think that for the partnerships that work, and I really do feel ours does, is you complement each other, because Lou and I are totally different. If you come and meet us in person or right now, you are noticing how different we are. And it's the complementing of that really allows us to push as far as we do, to engage with the partners that we engage with, and also to reach young people or any artists in the way we do. Because I mean, G, you and I know each other through music education, and different people resonate with different leaders. And so I think to be able to offer that in our partnership has been a massive strength. We push each other in lots of ways.
You have to, yeah. I think I love the the idea of being two different skill sets. It's kind of, because in the Smitty's partnership, I'm kind of the musical side of things, and Jack is more the business organizational side of things. And the thing that really brought us together was that we wanted two different parts of the same end goal. But distinctly wanted different things. And I wonder if there are any, I think that helps us stay together as a partnership. But I wonder, for both of you, if any of your kind of mentees kind of come to you and don't ask you about playing music, but they ask you about forming a partnership, or kind of mentoring advice about getting an idea off the ground. Is that something you want to do, or that you already do?
So we work with people in different ways. So I think most recently, and this is a bit of a tangent, so I will come back, but most recently we've done a masterclass on branding, for example. So yes, we do often get artists approaching us more on the music business side, definitely. Right. And when we've done our workshops, yes, people have often asked how we got women in jazz up as an idea. And I think those are really important questions, because one, there's no right way of doing it. But absolutely, the questions around who are the right people to work with and create that vision are fundamental. And Lou and I don't have all the answers, and we very much have challenges as well, but that is stuff that we're increasingly offering to people, and I think just naturally happen.
Yeah, I think it's just cool that you're able to offer kind of this other side of advice to the the musical, the women in music community, that they can come to you and ask you about gigs, but they can also come to you and ask you about organization. Yeah. So what are you still doing the Soho radio show from home? Is that something we can go and listen to?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're using a program called Zencaster. I don't know if you've heard of it, but it's unbelievable. I mean, it's literally just as good as being in the studio. Wow. And it's amazing. I mean, our last interview was with Lakeisha Benjamin, and she's all the way over in the States. And just what lockdown has made me realize is that everything can be done from home and really well.
Except for jazz.
Apart from live events, but it's amazing what you can achieve, and amazing the programs that are out there that allow you to achieve them.
Yeah, Lakeisha Benjamin, actually, it's cool that you got to talk to her. I was supposed to do a week at Ronnie's with her in the beginning of April with Guy Barker's big band. So I actually haven't met her, and I would really like to, because she's an incredible musician. But how was that interview? Was it awesome?
It was great. I think the thing that was obviously, you're not there in person, so you miss that that personal connection, and that's something that you can't replace online. It's still the program and putting it, you know, we were still allowed to do the show, and it was still a great interview. So it is just amazing what you can put together outside of the studio and what's possible.
And Lakeisha was very open with us, and I think that whenever you've got an interviewee, and props to her for being open without that physical interaction, but the stories that she shared such beautiful wisdom about how she came to know the music of the Coltrane's, what they represented to her, what she discovered. I mean, the project that she set up was bringing so many jazz titans together to create the most magnificent music. And I think that as jazz listeners, when you get a bit of story behind the music you're listening to, it just changes the experience. And I think especially in lockdown, we are needing those extra stories and ways of listening.
You said it. Definitely. So here's a question for you that we usually restrict our guests to one answer, but since there are two of you, can both have an answer. Please both have an answer. It's actually Darcy's question, Darcy. And it's the question is, have you had, or can you reminisce about a particularly humbling musical experience that you've had that's been career affirming or enlightening in some way, to kind of bring to the front, you know, to the fore, why you do this, or this is why I do this? Nina first.
Yes. Okay. I've got quite a few, so I'm trying to like filter through. I think I actually, so this is more when I performed in an assembly for young people, and I think I performed I Wish I Knew How It Would Feel to Be Free by Nina Simone, which is one of my favorite songs. And later on, so we always work with a set number of kids, but later on I was just walking to the staff room and a young girl ran up to me and belted out This Is Me, I think, from The Greatest Showman, and it was with such abandon. And she told me that she never sings at home, but she just did it then. And I think to be able to inspire that in someone, or have the opportunity to do so, was like the most humbling, amazing thing. So yeah, that was incredible for me.
Wow. Yeah, it is so cool when someone gives you that kind of, I find that so many people come up and talk to you after concerts and they want to teach you a lesson. You know, they want to tell you, you know, oh, I saw Nina Simone in 1965 at Ronnie Scott's, and she was really good, and she played that song, and you're thinking, okay, well, great, you know, thanks. But if somebody comes to you with that kind of honest gratitude of like, you know, I don't know, isn't that the most fulfilling thing you can get?
Hands down. I think if you can create a space where anyone can express themselves, that's probably the most amazing feeling and honor to ever have. Because anyone can, they just don't know they can.
Totally. All right, your turn, Lou.
Oh,
hit us.
So many to choose from, but I think it's going to have to be the very first event that we put on at Ronnie's, for a few reasons. The first is because it was an unbelievably daunting experience, whereby we're done, you know how much work goes into a live event. You've got to do all the marketing, you've got to choose the performers, you know, everything to a T. And I was, you know, got to the night of the event and I was like, is anyone actually going to come? How do we know people are actually going to come? This is so stressful. And in the end, we had a full house. We had 150 people upstairs at one of our favourite ever venues in London, presenting 3 of the most exciting talents and DJs. And it was a huge success. And it was kind of also a bit of a relief, because we had no idea how that night was going to go. That's so cool. And I think after that, we both were on a high for at least, you know, 3 days. And
even longer.
We thought, okay, what are we going to do next? That was amazing. That was a success. Let's keep going.
Right. Such a great launch pad for the whole thing. Yeah, so I just want to remind everyone out there that you can find out more about Women in Jazz on their website, and we'll put a link to them in our description below. Check out their show on Soho Radio, and stay tuned for live streams and all kinds of stuff coming up. Are there any dates that we can look out for, or is that all still in development?
Not dates in particular, but we are recruiting / looking for artists for our next British Airways show. So if there are any women out there who want to send us a track, then please do, because we're looking.
Amazing. That's great. Well, thank you so much to both of you for joining us today. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you so much.
It's such a treat. And now we're going to invite Alex Toledano, our global music correspondent, to come and bring us some music to listen to today. Is Alex around, Darce? Let's play the video. We'll play the video. So Lou and Nina, just to kind of tell you about what Alex kind of does. Well, what he does for us is different what he does in his career. But he's kind of I find for me that I always get kind of stuck in my jazz box, So I'm always checking out the latest jazz releases and the latest jazz stuff. And Alex loves jazz too, but he's my world music guy who sends me like, yeah, I mean, did you hear when, that, in 1945, when that guy in Maine bought a saw and he started playing saw, and, that kind of person, right? It sends you those obscure saw recordings,
Love it.
And so I told him that, that Women in Jazz was, the featured guest for the show today. And we started talking about, female-led musical groups in world music, not just in jazz. And he's a pretty big, I mean, he's a very, he's well versed in music from around the globe. And it was a challenge for him to think of a group that was led by female instrumentalists. And so we ended up settling on playing a video from a Niger-based trio called, I'm going to get this wrong, Les Filles, what is it, Darce? Les Filles? Yeah, Les Filles de Gilead. Yeah, and it's three women from Niger that play kind of an updated traditional music. And when Alex comes on, I'm sure he'll be able to give us some more insight into what's going on there. But enjoy this 4 minutes of music, and we'll see you soon.
Kalina Merci beaucoup. Merci. Merci beaucoup.
And we're back live at 5. Now we have a party going on. We have everybody here in the Knot studio. We have in the left corner, Darcy O'Connor.
Hi.
In the lower left corner, Nina Fine. In all by himself at the bottom, Alex Toledano and Louise Paley. And we just heard some incredible music, and that's thanks to Alex. So Alex, can you tell us, first of all, how badly I was butchering the name of the band? And
you weren't butchering it too badly, just a little bit.
I got as far as Les Filles, and then it was all down.
That was very good.
Wow,
I think it's
thanks,
Iligadad. Iligadad.
Iligadad. So
I'm sure I'm butchering it as well. I'm saying it right in French, but
right. So we were asking, is Iligadad a place, or what? Where? What is it?
It's in the Sahel Desert in Niger. It's a small community of people that lives mostly herdsmen.
Wow. So is this? I mean, this is kind of like so this is a unique group for a few reasons. One is that obviously it kind of fuses elements of electric guitar with traditional music from what's the correct term for the people that are making this music? Because I don't want to say.
Most people call it Tuareg music.
Tuareg music. Right.
I mean, there are schools of thought that say that that's kind of a derogatory term. That's what other people call them, and that's true. That other people do call them that, but at least the Tuareg people that I know also refer to themselves as that to other people.
So how did you come across this stuff?
This kind of music in general?
Well, yeah, or this particular band.
Well, this particular group, I've really gotten into this music for a number of years now, and I kind of check out every group that I can possibly get my hands on. So that's how I discovered them. There are a few labels that release this kind of stuff, and a small community of people who are really into it. But no, I originally got into it because of one of my favorite labels, Sublime Frequencies in Seattle, that put out a record or a series of records called Guitars from Agadez, which were about these kind of Tuareg male guitar groups based out of Agadez, the biggest city in the desert in Niger. And that's how I got into Bambino, who to a lot of people is like the most well-known musician playing this stuff elsewhere. And when I heard about the today's discussion, I thought that this would be interesting because it's really, I thought it would be a cool idea to listen to music that is not just where women are key members of a group, but where women are playing instruments that are normally reserved for men in specific cultures. And this is the rare case that you have a woman who's playing guitar in Niger's Tuareg culture.
Right. Yeah, I was reading that they've had kind of a really busy, few years, this band, kind of all over the globe. And they did a concert recently, I think in the past few years, at the Library of Congress. And I was just reading the text there. And like you said, Alex, there's a lot of these, a lot of the kind of musical roles in societies that aren't ours are very regimented, who obviously there's the griot culture, and we all think about that, or that's more accessible to us here. But in that text, it was talking about how it's quite rare that the leader of this band, who's a woman, is playing, electric guitar and rocking out, but in traditional kind of garb. And it's funny experiencing it from the outside, because for a person who comes from there, it must be quite, quite kind of visually innovative or shocking. And you said you've been to a lot of concerts, at least of Bombino in Paris, and you said that the different sects of or the different tribes of people will come to the concert and not mix. Is that right?
Well, there's just a lot of different, regional groups of Tuaregs who from Mali, from Niger, from all over, and they're their own communities, and that's why I think a lot of people have this this kind of broader title of Tuareg music, which makes sense because I think there is a lot of shared stuff, and they do, regardless of where in this broad region of the Sahel Desert. It's enormous. It's like a good chunk of Africa. All of these people who some continue to be nomadic, others are no longer nomadic, but this shared experience of a traditional music culture, and I think most importantly that they've all been sharing since the 80s, sharing tapes with each other that have traveled these long desert rides in cars. It's not as romantic as I think other people would want it to be, but there's a lot of tape trading of these groups that some of them come from southern Algeria, some of them come from Niger, some come from Mali, some come from southern Libya, where these borders are really fluid, where no government in their army is really patrolling the borders. And there's been a big blossoming of this kind of global Tuareg music culture in the region that everybody is sharing with each other. And as far as I know, this is the first time I ever discovered women playing guitar and leading a band themselves, which I thought is super cool, because it's not just this. It's also, you've had on other weeks, you've had flamenco music. When do you ever find a female flamenco guitarist who is well known? When do you ever find we were talking about gypsy jazz last week. You don't find women guitarists. It's like there are so many weird conventions in our culture as to what we expect or we allow women to what instruments we let them play in a broader cultural sense. And I really hope in the years to come there's going to be a lot more breaking down of these barriers, because it's ridiculous.
Well, Lou and Nina, they're breaking them down right now as we speak. So let's get Les Filles d'Aguiladad to London. Maybe we can do something with them. What do you say?
Yes, that would be awesome.
That would be sweet. That'd be sweet. Well, thanks all of you for participating. Nina and Lou, Women in Jazz, thank you so much for being on. Thank you, Alex Toledano, for the musical suggestions as always. And thank you to you for tuning in to Live at 5. We'll be back tomorrow and Saturday with our Archive at 5. And we have a Count Basie concert from 1979. Yep, I know it sounds strange, but we'll have that whole story tomorrow. So be sure to tune in. And also check out the links in our description below for our Patreon page and our Kansas Smitty's membership and Live at 5 playlist. Cool. We'll see you tomorrow, Live at 5. Thanks a lot. Thanks again for listening to Live at 5. Remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel to stay up to date with every episode. You can also click on the link in the description below to sign up to our Patreon and find out where you can sign up for Kansas Smitty's memberships, as well as purchase records and merch. Enjoy your evening, and we'll see you tomorrow, Live at 5.